apparently I'm second generation black Caribbean and half white Scottish, whatever that means.
I wanted to share with you an amazing book that I read earlier this year called Natives by Akala. I've always admired Akala, apart from the fact that he is a true rags to riches story. He is extremely talented and gifted, and he shares his talent through rapping and poetry, and his social commentary is just incredible. He comes from a working class family, mixed race, grew up in North London. He's similar to many of the students in our school. Natives is a really, really good book. I recommend you read it. The day I realised my mum was white, I returned from primary school upset. My mum tried to figure out why, but I was reluctant to tell her. After some coaxing, it emerged that a boy in the playground had called me a particularly nasty name. As I was finally about to spill the beans, a strange thing occurred. I said, "Mum, the white boy," and trailed off before I could complete the sentence. I looked to my mum as a profound realisation hit me. With a hint of terror and accusation, I said, "But Mum, you're white, aren't you, Mummy?" Before this moment, my mum was just my mum, a flawless superhero, like any loving parent is in a 5-year-old's eyes. But I sensed that something about that image was changing in the moment, something we could never take back. I wanted to unask the question. I wished I'd just pretended my day had been fine. I was mad at myself. My mother's expression was halfway between shock and resignation. She'd known this day would come, but the directness of the question still took her aback. This was my earliest memory of a racist insult directed at me. There were countless more to come, of course. The overriding feeling that I remember from the numerous instances of verbal racial abuse growing up was a sense of shame. A shame that was somehow incomparably deeper than a boy insulting your mum. The other taboo that, when broken, was almost sure to result in a fight. Racist insults leave you feeling dirty, because even at 5 years old, we already know on some level, in the society at least, we are indeed lesser citizens, with all the baggage of a racialised history following us, ghost-like, about our days. We are conquered people, living in a conqueror's land. And as such, we are people without honour. At 5 years old, we are already conscious of the offence caused by our black body turning up in the wrong space, and have begun to internalise the negative ideas about blackness so present in the culture. I was angry at the boy for his words, angry at the world for breaking my innocence, for making me aware so painfully early that my mum and I were not the same, and never would be again. Perhaps I already knew this before that day, and was in denial. Perhaps this day was just a confirmation, rather than a revelation. Looking back now, I feel shame for the other boy's parents. What kind of parent teaches their 5-year-old child to think and act this way? The reproduction of such anti-human, racist ideas is, to my mind at least, child abuse. But as racism is so endemic, we tend not to see it that way. From that day onwards, my relationship with my mother was not just a relationship of mother and son, but of a white mother to a black son. Race had intervened in our relationship and would be a mediator of it forevermore, marking both our actions and attitudes, colouring our conversations and heightening the usual conflict between mother and son, mapping onto them the loss and suffering of the black world at the hands of whitey, and the strange mix of guilt, fear and superiority that a great many white people feel every day as a result, but rarely talk about openly. As a father to 2 mixed-race children, it's really important for me to understand the challenges that black people face, especially when they're growing up. And I'm consciously aware of the fact that as my children do grow up, that they may feel barriers between us, me being a white man and living through a life of privilege, even though I come from a working class family, certainly had a life of privilege, and it's really, really important for me to keep my mind open about the challenges that they will face, to try and understand how I can support them when they're growing up, and to build our relationship. Thanks for listening.